I just thought I'd do just a quick kind of response to the Food Junkies book that Jane recommended on Saturday, because I just had all I've done is gone online and there's like do a book preview part, and I've just been reading through that really while I just sat down before I sort of made the effort to tackle the washing up. So I'm basically going to chat to you now while I do some washing up, because there's a fair amount here and I need to work my way through it. So I thought I'd do, it's just a bit of a combination video of kind of how it made me feel reading through what I read, and kind of what's been going on with me at the moment in terms of triggers and things like that, and food addictions. So from what I read, it's sort of talking about how there's a difference between simply overeating and kind of being addicted to the substances. Talked a lot about how look at where my shot thing is. Oh, there it is. Got it. I've got a sort of a chopper, mini chopper, and I tried to make sure that this this blade is kept in here, so it's not just randomly about the house and the kids can't get it. Just put it away in the cupboard. Yeah, so it's talking a lot about how we often can hide our addictions. We can often think that they don't really apply to us. And how they can so easily be kind of misrepresented. Recycling bin. So I thought that was quite interesting, because it's I've always kind of known that of course sugar and such is always a kind of taboo subject to talk about, the fact that you don't want to eat sugar anymore, etc. It is quite frowned upon, and I think it's because obviously when you don't want to eat sugar, it has a reflection on other people, and they think, well, am I bad then for not wanting to eat sugar? And of course, you know, we know that's not the case. It's just down to different choices. Some people can handle sugar really, really well. Some people can just have a little bit and then they move on with their lives. I through my past of kind of comfort eating and binge eating and kind of secret eating and kind of bolster eating and all sorts of different types of eating, I know that myself, since giving up sugar, kind of added sugar, if you know what I mean. I still have sugar in my baked beans, I still have kind of sugar in dried fruits like apricots, and I still have sugar in fresh fruits, but I don't have any kind of sweets or chocolate or kind of cake or biscuit or and I also don't have any crisps anymore. I don't have any crisps, or like I'll have nuts instead, as a sort of like that type of snack instead, or a kind of one of those sort of dates and nut bar, that type of thing, because although sometimes when I'm struggling I overeat, it only ever happens on nuts or kind of dried fruit or things like that, and there's a limit to how much of that I can eat. I have quite a society, as it were, I don't know how, you know, where you're satiated. That happens quite quickly way unlike, for example, eating a family bag of crisps or something like that, and that it never comes with a family bag of crisps. I always want to eat more, whereas with the nuts it does tend to stop at some point. And so in the end, if I've had a really bad day, not so much recently, but in the past, if I've had a really bad day, only ever equated to maybe 3 more healthy extra Bs or something like that. It wasn't a huge amount, if you know what I mean, and it became a bit more rational. But what's really helped me definitely is no sugar. So even on those tougher days, the sugar doesn't enter into it, and it makes everything a lot easier. I mean, obviously recently, because of my lifestyle change and everything becoming a bit more complicated, and everything quite busy, it has been a struggle, but I still haven't gone back to sugar. And I think it's fascinating to know that as long as you don't have your trigger foods, you're quite safe. And being safe kind of helps you through those trickier points that yes, you might be hungry, and yes, you might not have fully planned, or you might have not quite the right amount of food in the house, and you might have used up your healthy extra Bs, and you might want some more nuts, and you might struggle to say no. But if you don't, if you do eat some, it's not really that big a deal as long as you're not having the sugar, because it doesn't kind of has a limit. And I think it's fascinating. I think it went into quite a big detail about how lots of the chemicals. So it was saying about serotonin is a chemical which allows you to feel kind of content. It said dopamine is a chemical which allows you to feel excited about possibilities in the future, and that food kind of numbs you as serotonin would. It also talked about how that sugar film talked about sugar being similar kind of addictive qualities as cocaine. And I think what was interesting was that it's also said in this book that sugar is like a slow picker-upper, as in if you took cocaine, the hit would be instant and it would be a lot faster than sugar. However, sugar still does have a hit, it's just takes a little bit longer to come through. And it also explains about how when you eat something, you don't feel like it's having a very good effect, even though you know it should do. Say for example, you've got a box of donuts, and you might start eating them because you think it's going to feel really good, and you'll have this instant, the first, when you take a first bite, because of the flavours and the tastes, it tastes good, but you don't get this satisfied kind of soporific feeling until quite a bit further down the line. Like I said, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so do you get the real hit of it. So for people searching after that soporific feeling, and that kind of feeling of being kind of sedated, it doesn't happen for quite a little while. So it's tricky for that, which obviously it leads to quite a bit of overeating, because you're still chasing it, you're still chasing that high. It also talked about how it's quite natural for the body to want to have something good, and especially with eating and overeating, it's very natural for the body to enjoy eating, because if it didn't enjoy eating, then it wouldn't want to eat. So it's sort of going through the process of talking about why our bodies are set up for eating. So I think for me personally, what's been rearing its head recently is kind of fear of change, kind of fear of lack of control over my situation, kind of fear of stress, so having to think about being aware of bolster eating previous, sort of in anticipation of stress levels. It's nowhere near as bad as I thought it might escalate into, because mainly because I'd given up sugar. So the fact that I've done it for quite a long time now and my habits have changed means that even on those trickier points, my brain just doesn't even bother asking for it, if you know what I mean. It doesn't even care about it, and I feel like my sort of receptors for sugary foods and I was about to say crisps, but I bet crisps would still get me. I mean, they were my proper go-to. So I mean, I enjoyed cake and I enjoyed chocolate, don't get me wrong, and I would eat it, but it was crisps really that were the big ones. So I don't know whether I'm willing to kind of go down the route of having crisps and see how I get on with them. But luckily they're never in the house, as is kind of sweets and chocolate and stuff, so they're not there. And was it this last Sunday, I was at my children's grandma's house, and it was my dad's mum, and one of the ladies there offered us all like a small piece of, it was, you know, those Green and Black's mini chocolates. We had one of those mini chocolates each. I think they're about 4 cents or so, and I did eat one. It was an almond one I had, and I was a bit worried that it would kick-start it all, but didn't really at all. It was fine, and just carried on. So it's had the kind of low sugar thing has had an effect for such a long time now that I'm quite confident that my behaviours have fully changed. Obviously at the moment I'm struggling with more bolster eating because I'm scared, but I think as things settle out and everything becomes a little bit less scary, it'll, not that my situation would change, but that my viewpoint around the situation would change, because everything's all just very mildly up in the air at the moment. But as things settle out and as the car actually does go, and we settle into a new routine, it's a better routine anyway, because of course we'll be walking more, so that's really good, because that's good and healthy, and all we have to do is think a little bit more about what we're doing. There's no kind of nipping back to grab something in the car or things like that, to be sensible about it. So yeah, I mean, reading that excerpt just kind of kick-started a lot of thoughts in my head about food addiction and how grateful I am to have stopped sugar, so that it doesn't get me in these moments. That all I end up doing, the maximum I end up doing, is because I'm hungry and I can't be bothered to cook like something, or I'm just too tired, so I'll snack on something instead. But what I'm snacking on is healthy, and my brain always, like earlier I had some corn cakes because I was using up some corn cakes from the cupboard, because I'd had my cannelloni earlier, but I just couldn't really be bothered. I was hungry again, because normally I'd save my cannelloni till after the kids gone to bed, so I've got a meal to eat. But I've been trying to go and eat a meal with the kids when they have their tea, because obviously it's a good idea, isn't it, for them to have. So I've ended up eating it then, and then I'm like, when I come back down from the kids, I'm hungry from doing getting the kids into bed, I'm hungry again. So that's obviously something I'm going to have to watch and think about. But I had some corn cakes and peanut butter, and my brain just found an apple to put on top, so I had corn cakes and peanut butter and sliced apple on top. So I know my brain is already like thinking that it needs to find some speed food. It's quite a natural habit that's formed. So I'm grateful for that. and yeah, lots of, but it's just having a think about how I respond to foods, and making sure that I'm not scuppering myself and not making my life more complicated and difficult unnecessarily, because I know that our brains can be tricky things, and we think everything's going fine, but in reality we're just tricking ourselves, and that's, you know. So I'm just going to watch it, just going to be really careful, and just really, I'll obviously not beat myself up about things or anything, and not sort of be mean to myself, but just be careful in terms of thinking carefully about why I'm doing things and what I'm doing things for. Just so, because I weighed today at 10 stone 8, and that's lovely. I'm okay being 10 stone 8. I mean, again, there's a bit of me always wants to be 10 stone, but on the other hand, I'm 10.5 stone. I'm in my BMI. I think I'm 23.7 or something like that on my BMI, which is lovely. It's really, really, really lovely. So I'm certainly not going to put any pressure on myself to, you know. So I'm very, very, very comfortable being 10 stone 8. It's a wonderful thing to have achieved, and although I'd love to be that much slimmer and toned, I'm also right now completely comfortable being here, but I don't want to get any bigger. I certainly don't want to go up to 11, and I don't really want to go up to 10 stone 10 or anything like that. I mean, that's about as much as I want to go, is 10 stone 8. 10 stone 9 would even be in my head a bit too much. So I know that I've come a long way. Interesting enough, I started my journey at 13 stone 8.5. That's when I started Slimming World. So I am literally 3 stone and half a pound down, and I don't, you know, if you're not careful and cautious about how you do things, the weight just creeps right back on again. You know, if you're not sticking to plan, and if you're not working out why you're not sticking to plan, and if you're not preparing things so that you can stick to plan, it can all just pile on so easy and so quick. You suddenly find yourself 2 months down the line, and you think, yeah, I will get back on plan, but the trouble is you've already put on the stone, and then you've got to work hard to get off. So I'm completely and utterly comfortable doing what I'm doing. I'm so happy making sure that I'm sticking to plan, because it's too much to go if for example, when, okay, well, life is tough right now, I'm giving up the car, etc., and not doing the gym membership, and you know, the shop is tough, and we have a lot to achieve, and deadlines are tight, and it's getting hard and tough, and if I let that just scoop me off into overeating and bolstering mode, then I will be 100 times more unhappy. And I know occasionally I might go over because life is getting tough, but I can't beat myself up about it. I just have to take the next opportunity to reassess and learn from my lessons, learn from my mistakes. So it was good. It was good that Jane said about the Food Junkies book, and it's nice to find it and just have a little read, just to make myself aware of how far I've come. I've taken sugar out of my diet so that I do not have to go along the addictive route, and I'm being more careful with what I'm putting in my body, and I'm being more aware of, you know, when I can't fit any more in. It's a weird sensation, but you know, if you do binge eat in the past, or you know, if you know what it feels like when you binge eat, you eat and 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 you eat, and you don't get that feeling of satisfaction. It doesn't come. You're just constantly chasing after it, and it doesn't arrive. But now, since taking away the sugar, when I eat in terms of I'm not eating on plan, because I just had enough of life and I just want to eat what I want to eat. I had enough. I still eat mindfully and I'm still aware of what I'm eating, and I get the sensation of fullness, I get the satisfied feeling, and I feel like I can't actually fit any more in my belly, and I stop. And it's a fascinating process. And I don't know whether it's because I've taken all the extras away and that's why I can see it better, but I can eat, and then I sort of think, right, no, I'm getting close to full, okay, I want a little bit more, and I have a little bit more, and then I suddenly feel this sensation of, yeah, I might want more food, I might not, I might want something extra, I might still be craving that feeling of what is the serotonin hit, isn't it? Might be still craving that, but I can't actually fit any more in my belly, and nothing I can eat right now will provide that for me, you know. I think it's because I'm not surrounded by chocolate and biscuits and such, so I can't actually fit it in. And so there's a bit of my brain that goes, okay then, can't fit any more in then. That's it. I can't. I'm not getting my serotonin hit. It's not happening because I literally am eating the wrong foods to achieve it. I can't. You know, I'm not going to get the hit of a chocolate bar off sultanas. I'm not going to get the hit of a family-size bag of kettle chips after from kind of 16 almonds. It's just not going to happen. And so for that fact, I'm like safe. I've got a safety net because I can eat those things. But instead of receiving this sensation of the same sensation as the hit you get off family bag of crisps, I just get this sensation of that was a nice snack, and then my brain seems to move on, which is a magical place to be at. And even with all the extra stress of life right now, and me just can't be bothered with life and can't be bothered with doing anything. I've sort of had enough, and my brain still isn't getting the chocolate. It's not, you know, I mean, it's not made excuses to go to the garage and found chocolate. It's not nipped to the shop and bought crisps and hid them in the car, and you know, I've just not done it, and it hasn't even veiled into my mind. And I think it's a really freeing thing that I'm so grateful for. And I'm going to find out a bit more about the food addiction side of things, and just to really cement it into my mind about where I want to take myself and my body for the next phase in my life. Thanks everyone for being there, and we're fascinated to know if you guys have, obviously I know Jane's reading it at the moment, and but I didn't know whether anybody else was inspired to have a look at it, look at the book from watching Jane's video about the last Saturday, but I would be fascinated to know kind of if you have read it or heard about it, what your kind of responses are to it. That'd be lovely. Okay then guys, I'm gonna my second load of washing up has probably had enough soaking, so I'm gonna put this other stuff away and get this lot washed up. Okay then, lots of love to everyone. Bye.